All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Madison Board of Education to order. It is 5:01. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business is our school community session, where we have public participation if anyone is in attendance. If we do not have anyone in person or online, then we will move on to our next item, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Cook.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Rosenthal. Big welcome to Kevin Fogarty. Thank you for joining the board midstream, but we are all here to help. As we shared, Kevin came in over the summer, and it was great to meet with him and give him some background information and some information to get started. He has the new board member packet and has been excited to go, and we'll have you in soon to meet with the central office administration when we're all together. So welcome, Kevin. Just a few quick items before I turn it over to Ben Whitaker, on our construction manager on our CIP. But just wanted to report out some of the things that have been going on this summer. Registering a lot of kindergartners. We are 5 over projection. So first of all, projection was very close. We were projected at 191 kindergartners. We're at 196. A great balance, 79 at Brown and 117 at Nick. So pretty much hitting where we expect to hit, but that's really great, accurate projections from our demographer, but then also about what we wanted to see. So we're really pleased. I do expect we'll pick up a few more by then. So I bet you we do hit 200, certainly, sometime into the school year, but that's great to see. As of today, we are fully staffed for our teachers and in the process of hiring several paraprofessional openings that still remain. Facilities has had one of the busiest summers on record. I'm sure we don't keep these stats, but there's just an unbelievable number of projects. So I'm going to probably undersell everything that they did, but I know that we'll cover this in greater detail at facilities committee meeting coming up. Polson was the primary focus, as it is the third leg of our school renewal project, and just an incredible amount of work has happened there. We are on track to open. All the work has been taking place. Both the gym and the auditorium are completely empty. That was a big piece of the work in the beginning of the summer, but now all the focus is inside the building. The interior doors were refinished. They've been touched for the first time since the building opened. If board members or public has remembered being in Polson, the doors really stood out after we did some work interior as really being outdated. So they look fantastic. And then most of the work occurring lately has been the HVAC work. So as we bring cooling to the entire building, and the plan is still on track for late September, but we're really hoping we can turn those on earlier, in the school year. So I'll keep the board updated on that. And they're working basically 7 days a week on this project right now. So a lot happens every day that you stop over there. In terms of Neck River, we've been completing punch list projects, and I'm happy to report, as I shared with the board earlier, but over $2 million in a rebate for the geothermal project was received by the town. So that money was received, and we're thrilled that was able to be part of that project. So that was funding that was not anticipated in the original project, but it has been returned to the town. And several things that we struggled with last summer, like as we were getting the building open, like the flooring being fully waxed and things like that. So it looks good over there right now. There's a lot of work occurring there as well. 2 items that we couldn't get to at Brown School last summer that we did this summer was additional pre-K and K playground equipment was added in a whole new additional site. So we'll have two sites for pre-K and K that are really fantastic. And we redid the basketball foursquare area. So that was one thing we heard from parents as wanting to be done. So I'm really pleased that we were able to get that done this summer. It looks beautiful. And then Daniel Hand, a lot of work inside, a lot of painting went on, including the gym for the first time in 20 plus years. So that's great. And then the board will see one item related to that is new banners for the gym. So we have an action item to donate the previous banners, on the agenda tonight. So that's really, really great to see. And then the baseball field project is on track. No real hard deadline on that. So, but it's a lot of work and unbelievable amount of trucks bringing stone in for that project. And then the last thing to report, just received about this time yesterday, was we put in for a special education grant to support our teachers being reading trained in Wilson, and we received that. It was a competitive grant. So it's $43,694 that Liz Dr. Battaglia put in for. We'll use this funds to train our special education teachers on reading, and several of them will get certifications out of that. So we're really excited about that process, because it's always great. We can support our special education teachers with more reading training. So really exciting. So any questions on that? Happy to that, but I'm going to turn it over to Ben. So each year, what we do around this time is finalize our capital improvement plan. This typically would have gone to committee first, but with our flux of committee assignments, we wanted to bring it to the full board. So you've seen these documents. They do look a little different as we've been working through this process over the last. Really, it's been different every year, but the last few years, in particular, we've been refining it as we went from 6 sites to 4. So really important work that's occurred here, and I think this is the best format that I've seen in terms of that's really clear. And so I thank Ben Whitaker for all his work on that, and Pete Anderson, our facilities director, is with us as well. Ben is our construction manager and is going to present the CIP to you. So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. For those who don't know me, Ben Whitaker, Director of Construction and Planning for both the district and the town. This is my first year in this kind of new role, jumping into the capital improvement plan. This type of planning has been kind of my thing for the past 10 plus years, so I'm happy to be a part of it. Understand that it's baby steps. Change is hard. Everybody gets used to formats. Everybody gets used to kind of the way of doing things. Nothing was wrong. This is just a little bit different. Trying to put my own spin on it. Just using some tried and true tools that I think people have found helpful to digest what could sometimes be a pretty complex process. And of course, once you start adding up the projects, just having that clarity and really the definition behind the projects. We're not going to dig into each one tonight, but the process that we used for you always had a 5-year plan, and there was also a 10-year. The 10-year was almost into wish list status. It really wasn't implemented with any sort of fidelity. A 5-year look is really what you want to focus on. And that's what the town has typically used to fund. Now, I normally treat capital improvement plans as just that. It's a plan. It's a list of project concepts that are well scoped, that everybody agrees on, that say, hey, if we get the money for it, this is what we're going to do. My last district, we were very heavily grant funded. Grants fell out of the sky in various places, congressional designated spending, grants from the state, you name it. So we always wanted to plan for a lot more than we could really afford. Kind of the Madison method is using a declining balance in what they call the CNRE fund. And they actually aim to, even though every year during your budget process, you're only funding the first year of the plan, they really try to do a declining balance and kind of pro forma fund the entire plan. A little bit different. Again, nothing wrong with that, but it's a system that we're going to kind of bridge the gap here a little bit. So you'll notice in this format, you have your 5 years, 28 through 32, and then you have what we call an on-deck year. So an on-deck year is basically everything that you would have seen in your long-range plan. What we don't want the long-range plan to become is like a bullpen of projects that really everybody's just pushing off. The running joke a few years ago is like, oh, put that in year 6. I'm like, well, year 6 is now this big. Year 6 is year never. We really want to have visibility for it because once you actually take the time to scope out a project and define a need, circulate it to a board and everybody agrees on it, that project never goes away unless you've done another project that tackled it or you've just completely reconfigured, changed building, something like that. So this way, this is a public document. We want the public to be aware not only what's in our 5-year, but if we're going to use that approach where we declining balance fund, it's not showing the entire need of the district. So this is an attempt to do that. So originally, this plan had everything that was in the on deck year actually in fiscal year 28 through 32. At the request of the town, wanting to limit us to about $10 million because using that declining balance approach, that's what they're comfortable funding through the Madison investment plan. We moved everything that didn't fit into that on deck year. So one thing you'll notice in this summary is there are some blank lines. Normally, the way this is set up is you have each year and then projects in order of magnitude based on dollar amount, not necessarily priority. I always found it helpful that the biggest projects always come up first. You will see some gaps and you'll say, okay, why is this project in 30, but it's on line 2? That's because that project actually is needed in 28. We moved to 30 when we were doing our balancing act. And you'll see like the 5th line down is Brown's calf flooring. That's an on deck, yet why is it so far up on the top? Because we wanted that we knew we had some projects that were actually in the 5-year that because of that financial method, I don't want to use the term forced, we weren't forced, but we put it into the on deck so we didn't lose sight of when we actually need that project. What I think might be helpful is to take a look at one of the detail sheets, and then we'll talk about how the actual model was built out. So it's page 4, or page 4 is the build. Yeah, you're going to include one detail sheet, I think, for an example. There it is. Yeah, just make it a little smaller so it all shows up. So this is what we call a project scoping sheet or a project submittal sheet. We've actually empowered all of our administrators. They're brewing up a project at the school level. This is kind of the format that it gets to us, and we can start working together to scope and package the project. No project gets into this plan, whether it's in the 5-year or the on deck, unless it has at least this amount of detail associated with it. Now, when you put ideally, when you're running a 5-year plan, all your projects are going into year 5 and then they march forward. Of course, sometimes there's projects that have to jump up in priority, they're emergent needs, whatever. But we always start with this format. And then every year, as more details are known, as the project moves forwards in the plan, you sometimes start engaging outside parties to start getting some harder pricing, some design concepts done, whatever the case may be, depends on the project. This sheet is dynamic and it will change every year. The capital planning process never really stops. It happens all year. I like to say it just gets frozen once a year when the board votes on it. So it doesn't sit on the shelf by any means. We're always recalibrating the projects within it, updating our numbers. So what I did with this year, went through the long range plan, everything that was in 32, really went through and validated a lot of those projects. Some of them were irrelevant because of projects that were done, say at Polsic, we might have tackled a couple of things through a bigger project. Okay, wipe that one out. And then everything that went into this plan, put some better numbers behind it and got it loaded in here. There were also several opportunities where we were able to take projects and combine them. For example, there were 3 projects in here that had to do with locker rooms at Polson. Worked with the athletic director and the principal. We're actually able to package those into a smaller project and actually save about $1 million total to do it in that way and actually build a space that the school and athletics actually desired. So a lot of work kind of went in behind the scenes for this plan this year. The goal is to create a model and then we just kind of tune it up every year and represent it for approval and hopefully knock some projects out. So again, everything starts like this. These will be made available to you. If you want to get into the details at some point, you can. But tonight we're just going to kind of focus on the bigger picture. So if we back up to this slide here, this page here, what I tried to do this year is always the way I found, especially coming in new to a plan, how to kind of articulate how did we get from last year to this year. So it's balancing act. The first line there is last year's 5-year plan, and that gives you the total. You subtract out what we actually funded last year. So if you didn't fund it, you carried it forward. We added back a couple multi-year projects. So 11 projects made their way from last year into this year. And then you see some different categories in there. This list actually was a lot bigger before we started moving things into on deck. But again, we took projects that were in 32 and we put them into year 5, validated the number, got them into year 5. We also had some brand new projects that were scoped. Again, this is the facilities team bring these up. They could come from principals. As I've done projects through various schools, we've seen some needs. Put these projects together, package them, put them into year 5. So you see those there. We pulled in one project into year 3 from the Pulse and Bond project. We were hoping to knock out a few extra projects with that bond fund because of the cost of the current project. Some of these things aren't going to be funded through that bond fund. A couple are sitting in on deck. One is actually in the plan now in year 3. Then there's a couple of new projects that were emergent issues. So I call it emergent issues, something that isn't going into year 5. Again, ideally everything goes into year 5, but sometimes things can't wait till year 5. So those perfect examples, Brown fire alarm, that was a need that was brought up both by the school and the fire marshal. That one is the only project I think that we actually put into the first year of the plan, relatively small at $150,000, but at least see how that breaks out. And a couple of projects were actually taken from the 5-year plan and moved into the on deck. So that's not the direction we really want them to go. But to get to that $10 million number, we removed a couple projects that already existed in the 5-year plan and moved them out to on deck. So if you scroll down just a little bit, it will give you a couple of miscellaneous moves in there. We retooled the estimate for the DHHS roof replacement. We actually went through the conceptual design process with an architect. Their estimate came in $125,000 less than the estimate that I was carrying in the plan, so we get to remove that from there. And then we restored last year, but even the year before, we cut down the number for Brown's Kitchen to really a unreasonable number where we couldn't even execute the scope. So we restored 200,000 of that to meet that objective. Again, that's something that I want to try to move away from. We either do a project or we don't do it. If there's a way we could rescope a project to make it less, fine. But just taking a project, my commitment to you is I'm going to bring you good numbers. If a project's $6,000, please don't play that game where you go, we'll give you 4. The game we can play is what could you do for 4? And then we could talk about it. But don't take a scope and go, just do it for 4. That doesn't work that way. So that's adding that project back. So we're left with 10.6. That is the total cost. Everything in this plan is total cost. If there are grants attached to a project, that'll net out, and you'll see if we go back up to the. So long story short is we're up about $1 million from last year's 5-year plan. But if you go back up to the summary, the last line in the summary to the first page. Last line of the summary is what the estimated local share is. So that's net of grants. So the only project in here that has a significant grant attached to it is the high school roof. We carry about 25% for estimated reimbursement for that. So total that all up, we're at the 9.7, which is in line with the Madison investment plan. But our hope is always that if we do find money from other sources, hopefully some of those projects could either jump out of on deck or we're able to hit some that are in the future years. What's really important here is everything is out there for the public to see. Because what we want to avoid, and this has happened a few times now, where projects pop back on the list of people, where did that come from? Why are you doing that instead of this? So this will really show that, again, in my perfect world, everything gets laid out into the 5 years. If you don't fund it, it just moves forward a year. Yes, at some point, you're going to stack up year 1, you have to recalibrate. But it really shows that projects never leave this plan once they're in them. And again, the public gets comfortable with it because they start seeing it over the years. Now, one great thing about this exercise is you'll notice you have $22 million in your capital plan and you're on deck right now. So I guess we're done capital planning for the next 5 to 10 years because there it is and you're on deck. We're just going to move forward if we're only doing 2.5 million a year. So that's why we also didn't want to lose sight of it. We'll every year we'll refresh those numbers, make sure the project's still relevant, and we'll keep trying to move it forward. So I know that was a lot. Anything you guys have on the overall process, happy to take any questions. I don't think we're diving into the project details tonight, but the big one for next year is obviously the high school's roof. That is not categorized as something we just want to do. That is something we have to do. And Polson, we're gonna execute Polson at the same time, hopefully, to build it in 28. That's part of the bond fund, which is why you don't see it on the schedule here. Projects are here because
Yes,
of
that also, because I remember you had said it had been brought up at the Pulse also meeting.
Yeah, and the good news there is the way things are tracking with this project, we were waiting till March when basically this current phase was done, just to make sure we did have the funding for it. Right now, that project is actually trending a little bit under budget. So as of right now, we will have the funds to move forward with the state grant application for that. So we have the conceptual design done for that project as well. We're pretty much right on with the estimate for it, so we will hopefully move these two projects through the state process together. It's a lot more efficient, a lot cheaper to do it that way.
And is there a reason why it's not on this list?
It's not on this list because it's funded already. It's in the bond fund. Yep. So projects in a capital plan remain on the plan until they're funded. So it's not necessarily when it's executed, it's when it's funded.
So we will be taking action to approve this tonight. So that's later in the agenda, but if anyone has any questions or wants Ben to clarify anything now.
If you are approving it, maybe some of the bigger dollar ones, if anybody has any project specific questions, we can tackle those. There's only a couple of them that stand out there.
What I just wanted to highlight, and because it's new, but the board has talked about it before, is the Daniel Hand Auditorium. And so the board knows we had the accreditation recommendation. It is on the on deck portion. It's the last item on that line. A rough estimate from Ben's work. That would most likely be, in my opinion, a bonded project in town, and probably wouldn't be one that goes through the CIP process, but we want to hold that somewhere and start that conversation because we do have that recommendation from our accreditation board. Also, parents and staff have asked for that for years, so it's something that's obviously new, but it's a pretty large project, but we wanted to highlight that there.
Is that on
this conversation?
Yeah,
it's the last item on the list. Daniel Hand High School auditorium addition.
8.5 million. Biggest number out here by far.
Is there any anticipated date when that would go to bond?
So it's a discussion with the town. I know they have several projects too. They're looking at the surf club and some other areas. So we'd like to hopefully at least one that's tied in with several other projects. No certain time frame at this time.
Ben, do you maybe just want to walk us through the items that are for fiscal year 28?
Yeah, sure.
To make sure that we know.
Absolutely. So again, the biggest one's the roof. We just talked about that one, the 3.7. That actually has been validated by a third party estimate now. We were able to, I think my number was about 3.9. We were able to cut that to 3.7, which was good. Brown's fire alarm, again, that's a fire marshal issue. The horn strobes in that building are not appropriate for elementary school kids. I'm not even going to try to make the noise. It's bad. It's also not synced. So the strobes in that building, in a modern building, all your strobes are synced, so they flash at the same time. In that building, they all fire at different rates. If you were like, if you were in a dark space and you saw that, it would be very dizzying and confusing. Just how things were done back then. Mm-hmm. So that the fire alarm there is grandfathered into its code from when it was installed. The fire alarm panel and like the brains of it are fine over there. That's the reason it's not a $400,000 project. So this is rewiring and actually putting in code compliant devices there, and also adjusting the decibel levels. That system there now, you can't adjust the decibels, and they are way too high. So I experienced it myself last summer. So one of those things like, no principal likes how a fire alarm sounds. We tested it last summer. I'm like, yeah, this is not good for little kids. So that's, like I said, that's the one we jumped up in the list. Polson restroom refreshes. So this is a project. It's actually a kind of a reconfigured version of something that's been in your capital plan for years. Just a little bit reconfigured. You remember in 2024, it was my first summer here. There was a project that had significant surgery to a couple of the restrooms. It wasn't just a refresh. It was actually structural, walls removed, plumbing fixtures removed. The project, we got through it, but it was major. And when you're ripping into a building that was built in the 50s or 60s, you're not going to find things until you start ripping into it and find things we do. And we barely got that building open in time for school. And there's really we did make a restroom that wasn't ADA compliant. Yes, that's always a good thing. We could use that now as our compliant restroom. What I've done in school portfolios, or I just call them a refresh, where we go in there. So I've plotted out a needs assessment of all the restrooms in the building, kind of went through and it has a menu of items for each one. And we give it basically a cosmetic refresh. You get new plumbing fixtures. We usually use an epoxy coating. It's called a Duraflex coating over the floor. A lot of them are just like the old avocado tile floors from the 60s. Nothing wrong with them, but they're just not that appealing looking. Most of the walls in there are just regular old cement block walls. So we put some wall treatments in there. Toilet partitions, a lot of them are just old and rusty and they're well beyond their life. So, don't have the number off the top of my head, but we are looking at doing either the $100,000 basically gets you one set of what we call gang restrooms, multi-person restrooms, or 2 to 3 smaller restrooms. So we'll do those over the course of the next 5 years. And again, those are each restroom has kind of its own menu. But after the 5 years, everything in the building will be nice and shiny and new there. School security enhancements, that's a project that the board is committed to for many years. It's been level funded at 75 a year. It goes into an account. If we don't use it, the money just keeps rolling over basically. It's used for security enhancements. So this year we used all of it and a little bit we had in our savings, so to speak, to redo the public address system at Daniel Head High. That was something that we did this summer. It was original to the building. It was on its last legs. Luckily, we were able to find a system that reused all the speakers. So kind of the opposite of Brown. Brown, we have a new head end, but we've got to replace all the field devices. There, we kept all our field devices and we replaced the brains of it. And we got it done for about $98,000 versus I think the quote that was on the table a couple of years ago was $450,000. So that's what that money is used for. It's a great thing to do. This is the first district I've worked with where a board is actually committed to putting money into that every year and sticking with it. And we're putting it to good use. So those are the four projects for 28. Happy to answer any questions on those or really anything else.
You want to make questions? No? No? Okay, so we'll take action on that in a little bit. Thank you so much, Ben. That was super helpful. I like how it's arranged. It's great.
Okay, that's completes my report.
Thank you. All right, our next item is board members' comments. Any comments?
Just thank you so much for all that work. I feel like there was so much intentionality here, just really organizing everything, and also the fact that there's you're really thinking about transparency for the community, which I really appreciate.
One thing I think it's quickly, I would like to start more of a cyclical update cycle with the board as well too.
Yeah,
So
that'll be great.
normally a capital presentation is that you start with, here's what we did since the last cycle. This year, I think just as a catch up in October, we'll present what we did kind of over this summer. That's really over the last year, but schools always work with summers. That's when the bulk of our work is. So I think we're going to shoot for October and get a nice update on that. And then these projects, as a board member, I think it'll be fun to see how they march on paper for years and then you actually see it happen. So.
Other comments? I'd just like to welcome you, Kevin, again. We're so glad to have you. As you heard from Dr. Cook, questions or, we're a friendly bunch and a few of us are missing tonight, but we're really glad to have you. And I also just, a couple weeks ago, Galen and I, so we serve on the Polson HVAC special committee for Polson in Hand. And so we went on a tour of Polson with Ben. We got up on the roof, we saw all the work that's been done in the building. It was just incredible. So I know there's pictures online, Ben, of sort of update of the process throughout, and there'll be some befores and afters, but it was incredible to see the amount of work that's been done throughout the whole school. all the people working seemingly around the clock to get it done in time for the students, so. I don't know if I have anything about that.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Very highly skilled workman.
Yeah. All right. More comments? Okay, we do not have any audience in the room. Anyone online? Public comment? No. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to our action items. Our first action item is election of a board secretary. Do I have a nomination?
It would be my honor to nominate Maureen Lewis for the position.
Second one.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So you need to bring the donuts now.
Get your cards ready.
Great, our next action item, I'd like a motion to appoint Kevin Fogarty to the Facilities Committee and the Finance Committee. Do I have a motion? So move. Thank you, Maureen. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mary Ann. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Same. Guys. Welcome, Kevin. You'll be getting notices and packets for those. Meetings. They're great. You'll getting to hear a lot from Beth for facilities in particular, so we'll know even more. All right, our next action item is a motion to approve the 2027-2028 capital improvement plan. Do I have a motion?
So
Thank you, Galen. Second. Kathy. Any more discussion or any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Same. Carries 6-0. Thank you. Our next action item is a motion to approve the disposal of used books and equipment. Do I have a motion? So moved. Thank you, Kathy. And a second? Second. Any discussion? Thank you, Mary Ann. So this was included in the packet, this information. Okay. Sort of standard.
Yeah, when anything of particular value, and sometimes we have to kind of guess on the value. This is one of those times. It's really just to cover an improvement of our process. So in the past, we had material banners that if a team won, so if say the girls basketball team won the state championship, then the banner at some point had to come off the wall and sent out to have the new year, so 2026, sewn into it, and then it would come back and then put back up. It took a long time, as you can imagine, and we were always outdated at some point. So schools won 89 championships, and or 94. I may be a year back, maybe in 94 at this point. State championships. So we're constantly out of date. The new banners will be able to just put the year on. So we'll keep them constantly updated. And it's great for the students to see the most immediate results of their championship. So that was this is quite an improvement. It will look much nicer too in the gyms. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Our next action item is a motion to approve a donation from the Neck River PTO to Neck River Elementary in the amount of $2,102.41 for the purchase of library books. We have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Kathy. There's second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, PTO.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay, I've got a lot of new library books. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same, motion carries. 6-0, thank you. Our next action item, I'd like a motion to approve a donation from the South Central Regional Council of Governments to Neck River Elementary School in the amount of $2,222 for bike racks. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Karen. In a second,
Second, oh, there you go, Kevin.
Kevin. Any discussion?
Yes, this is very generous and just a quick question, how much bike traffic do we expect?
So, it's kind of a tough spot. So all our schools are really not in the best biking areas, but oftentimes what we'll see at Neck River is students in those immediate neighborhoods will bike, and many times the parent will bike with them, so it makes it really, say, student will leave their bike for the day, and then parent will bike in to pick them up. So it's really been a nice kind of just Yes.
We get that.
yeah,
Cool, right.
yeah, but
Use on the playground.
it's rare that this,
Yeah.
yeah, it's right, no, yeah, the family may bike after school or on a Saturday to use the playground, so, you know, it's not a ton of bike traffic because it's on a little bit of a major road, but, we've had some, so it's great to be able to do that.
With the additions of sidewalks, I'd imagine that also.
That would help too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and when eventually, we have the
Yeah.
sidewalks, and I think, but
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oops. Please abstain. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next action item, I would like a motion to approve a donation from the Brown School PTO to Brown Elementary School in the amount of $46,746.50 for school wish list items and field trips.
It's generous, so.
Do I have, Kathy, you have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second, great.
Second that.
Second.
I thought that's what place, first place.
And so if I could just comment on that as well, what happens typically in this, there's it's fantastic, it's really generous, but just so parents in the Neck River are not feeling that their PTO is doing less, it's a Neck River will oftentimes give more specific donations throughout the year, whereas the Brown PTO often likes to just start off with a full donation. So you know, they're actually run very similar, you know, as the year goes on, and very similar activities and experiences for the kids, which is fantastic. You know, so many things that we could not do without the PTOs. They're incredibly supportive, so they really do enhance this experience. But they're very similar, you know, at the end of the year. It's just that the different way they go about it.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. That's helpful. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. And then our final action item, I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the June 9th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. Motion.
Done.
Kathy? And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bjorn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. And finally, do we have any future agenda items?
This isn't an agenda item per se, but there's a registration deadline for early registration for the K caps.
Yes.
I think that the early registration closes on this Friday, so if you'd like to go, I think you need to contact so make those arrangements.
Yeah. Any other notes for future agenda items?
I left one piece out in terms of the donation or the disposal. The banners will be going to the athletic hall of fame. They had asked for them, so they're not just going to be put in a landfill somewhere. Yeah, the athletic hall of fame asked for them, so the process. I think they were going to contact the library and maybe put on display them from time to time or something like that, or they'll hang them at their banquets. So yeah, they just want to. It's fun.
Thank you for that. Okay, anything else? All right, I will call for a motion to adjourn at 5:40.
So
Thank you, Kathy. Do you have a second? Second. No, Maureen, all in favor of adjourning?
6.
Aye, any opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. All right, thank you, everyone.
Kevin, they're all short.